And we are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast, to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into tonight's recap of the Detroit Pistons versus the Indiana Pacers, I want to make sure to remind you guys to like and subscribe. Our podcast is growing and we want to continue to grow. And that's where you guys come in. So if you are new to the channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button. And just a couple days ago on Saturday, we posted this week's episode. And this week, we talk about a few players that the Pistons could trade for. We talk about Brandon Ingram, OG Anunoby, and what was the third guy? I'm drawing a blank. You guys will just have to watch.
Yeah.
Just watch the video. You'll figure out the third guy by the end of the video. A lot going on with the Revved Up 906 podcast. So make sure to tune into that episode. It's a very good episode. We talk about some of the way these guys could blend with the Pistons and why we see them being successful on the Pistons and how they can kind of help turn the Pistons around. And obviously the Pistons need some help, but in tonight's game, we'll talk about there was a lot of positives. The Pistons are turning around a little bit and turning the corner in this 20-game losing streak. It's brutal, but overall, they're kind of finding their way in certain categories. And when talking about tonight's recap of Pistons versus the Indiana Pacers, tonight's final score was 131 to 123 in the Pacers' favor. But one thing I want to talk about right off the bat is Asar Thompson, Cade Cunningham, and Jaden Ivey all combined for 61 points. So this trio really was finding a rhythm tonight. And I really think that when these three guys are clicking on all cylinders on the offensive end, it's setting this Pistons team up for success.
Yeah, when you look at what these individuals did for us tonight, like Cade giving us 23, no complaints there. I mean, I'll take the 7 assists and 6 rebounds, and he got 2.
Oh, yeah.
Jaden Ivey, 18 points, a steal, a block, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. And then like Alec Burks, even 13 minutes played, 4 of 6 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, 100% at the line with 14 points and a steal. Like we're seeing some of these guys do, they actually were solid tonight, honestly.
Yeah.
I know it resulted in a loss, but the last time we even played the Pacers too, we were hanging in there the entire stretch of the way until the fourth quarter. And that's what happened tonight. We were in there the entire time up until the fourth quarter. And that's when the Pacers really put the pedal to the metal and took us out. But I want to give props to our guards because tonight they actually showed up. I know Killian in 23 minutes played, only took 4 shots, was 2 of 4, had 2 free throws made too. 6 points, 7 assists, a steal, and rebound. I know that's not like the most flattering of stat lines as a starting guard in the NBA, but you also have to realize like he was being completely unselfish with his play tonight. He wasn't taking shots left and right. He was looking for others and results in 7 assists. And so like kudos to the way our guards played. But then even so, like our bigs and I guess you could throw Bojan into that mix, even though he really isn't. He's a stretch 4. But our entire team tonight, they actually came out tonight and played.
Yeah, and it speaks to how tough this Pacers team is. I mean, they are a well-rounded team that is, on paper isn't the most impressive team, but they are gelling really well. And when you have Tyrese Halliburton, such an elite passer at the helm, he sets up this team for a lot of success. He finished tonight's game with 16 assists. Yeah, 16 assists. But really like the biggest key factor over 4 quarters for the Pacers in getting this win tonight was Benedict Mathurin ended up with 30 points and then 7 rebounds and also 8 assists. I mean, he just had a stat sheet stuff at night. And a guy like Benedict kind of gives a great dynamic to this Pacers team coming off the bench because he's one of those guys that you don't really need to give him a game plan. The game plan is go out and get buckets. And that's what he's doing for this Pacers team right now. And the Pistons just didn't really have an answer for him, especially off the bench. I think if Benedict was starting in tonight's game going up against Asar Thompson, I think we would have prevented those 30 points, but we don't really have any dynamic defenders coming off the bench for the Pistons. Benedict Matherin's in for a big night if you just don't have those defenders off the bench.
Yeah, and honestly, this is me giving a shout out right now, and that's to James Wiseman. In 13 minutes tonight, I mean, he took one shot. That's it. Had 2 free throws. He had 4 points, 3 blocks, a steal, an assist, and 4 boards. He did also have a turnover and 3 fouls, but in 13 minutes played, he was very productive for us, not only on offense but defense. And that's what we've been preaching for him to do since getting to Detroit.
Yeah.
And he finally, when given the opportunity tonight, due in part to Marvin Bagley being out and then Duren being out for the next couple weeks, we see Wiseman getting an opportunity here to give us a couple key minutes. And within the minutes he played, he showed out. He did his thing. And I was very happy to see that because a large part, we're probably going to see a lot more of Wiseman going forward based off tonight's play, outside of the injuries to Marvin Bagley and Jalen Duren. But I think Wiseman, at the moments that he was in there, especially when Benedict Mathurin was out there, I really think James Wiseman played a positive role in our defense around him, because there were moments where Benedict would go in on a cut or go off a rebound for a putback, and Wiseman was there to contest all these shots. And if you didn't have pretty much a 7'2" big man in there, and you had the likes of an Isaiah Livers, this is no offense to Livers because he's a great defender, but there's only so much he can do. Benedict is one of those few players in the league where not only does he have raw athleticism, but he's extremely long and really good offensively. So he's one of those guys that you always have to watch out for. You always have to have some sort of game plan for, because he just, like tonight, is a part 30 points. Last time we played them, he had a good 18 off the bench. And the point with Mathurin is he could easily start in this league. He could, for any team in the NBA right now, he could start. He's not, because of how deep the Pacers are. And then also how good of a coach Rick Carlisle is. He knows, like, yeah, I can have Mathurin coming off the bench and he's still going to give me 30, even if he wasn't starting. And that speaks volumes to how good Mathurin is. But then also, like, having a big man in there when we needed him the most proved valuable in trying to somewhat contain Mathurin to a little bit more than what he could have done against us tonight.
Yeah, and when we always talk about James Wiseman, we talk about him doing the little things, not always focusing on the offensive end and finding his own bucket. And that's kind of what Marvin Bagley has gotten good at later in his career, is doing the little things. And that's kind of why he's got the upper edge in minutes on James Wiseman. But with Bagley, kind of struggling with injuries, James Wiseman came in tonight, went up against the Pacers that are a center heavy team. So he had tough matchups, whether it was off the bench or in the starting lineup. And he did the little things tonight. And I think that, is a great thing to point out, because the stats don't jump off the box score. But when you watch the game, you watch the way he was addressing players on the defensive end, the way he was trying to actively set screens for our guards. That that could be a big reason too why the guards were so successful with that pick and roll play and the movement off the picks. So James Wiseman finally finding some rhythm and just doing the little things, and then it's showing on the defensive end in helping on the defensive end. I was really happy, like you mentioned before, with our guard play. Cade Cunningham had the first 11 points of the Pistons' first 18 points. So early on the game, Cade was setting the tone that he was going to be the offensive juggernaut that we know him to be, and then finished with 23 points. So started off really hot in the first quarter. I noticed over Cade's career that once he finds rhythm early, he's going to keep it rolling the next 3 quarters. I really like the way he's able to come out hot and then keep it rolling. He's not a guy that's like super streaky. If he starts out hot, he's going to keep it rolling. I was really happy with Cade's play tonight. He was, I like him to get a little bit more than 23 points, but really on most given nights, scoring 123 points in 4 quarters is going to get you the win. The Indiana Pacers are averaging the most points per game in NBA history. They just score a lot, whether it's fast break or setting up an offensive scheme. I was really happy with the way Cade played tonight. And overall, when he's putting up 23, 6, and 7 every night, the Pistons are in good shape to win games, especially when he's shooting efficient like he did tonight.
Yeah, and to point that out too, usually when Cade is hot, these opposing teams are switching up their game plan on how they're approaching each and every game that night out. So like you're gonna have a situation where Cade all of a sudden is getting double teamed out of nowhere because they need to make a defensive adjustment to slow him down, which then in result gives more opportunities to others. So like Asar Thompson giving us 20 points tonight, Bogey giving us 17, Stu 13, Jaden Ivey 18, Alec Burks 14, Isaiah Livers 8, Killian 6. It's giving all these other guys opportunities to really space the floor and create shots for others because of the fact of how hot Cade is. When Cade starts off slow and then it doesn't really go anywhere, it's easier for these opposing teams to really game plan that. If Cade's hot, like he started out tonight, it's harder to game plan for him because then it's like, okay, if we double him, how many opportunities is that going to give for other players? Or if we do slow him down, is that going to hurt the rest of the team? So like Cade having as hot of a night as he had tonight helped the rest of the guys really contribute. And see, like I personally think that's a recipe for success with our team is if Cade is slow and not really making any good choices, turning the ball over, taking bad shots, in return, the rest of the team, nobody's going to really be playing that well. If Cade's playing well, good things will happen. And tonight is evident. Like the fact we were hanging in there all the way through until the very end against the highest scoring team in the league speaks volumes of how good Cade benefits the rest of the team. And I really think when Cade is hot, the rest of the team is hot.
It was so great to see Jaden Ivey have a comeback game. 18 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 7 of 15 shooting, 0 of 3 from the 3-point line. Though that's not really a negative because typically when Jaden struggles shooting the ball, everything else starts to fall in line with struggles. So it's like the fact that he was able to go 0 of 3 from the 3-point line, but be able to stay within himself to still secure a solid night, getting 18 points, most of those points coming at the rim. Jaden was very active tonight and looked like his late season, last season, the way he was playing. I was very happy to see Jaden Ivey kind of pull his wits together and put together a good outing against the Pacers.
Yeah, Jaden Ivey, like we've said from time to time, sometimes it seems like he's in it to be there and play the game, and then other times it's kind of like, ooh, he's not there tonight. But he was there tonight, and I'm happy to see that. The last night out, even too, he was flying all over the place. He didn't have the stat line that he had tonight, but he was still flying all over the place, bringing us energy and good minutes. And he continued that trend tonight. I mean, when you're given 34 minutes, which if this is the most he's been given in a hot second, you're going to see good things happening. And I really think Monty and the coaching staff believe in Jaden Ivey and his abilities because otherwise you're not putting him out there. And like Monty said earlier on, I want to have the best lineup out there at all times. That doesn't mean Jaden Ivey sucks and shouldn't be starting. That means he's that good that Monty recognizes that and goes, if I throw him within the second unit, he's going to be like a Cade Cunningham type player in the second unit, and he's going to be the go-to scorer. And that's what Jaden Ivey has shown us with the second unit. There may be times in which he only gives us 6 points and he struggles. But that also could be these opposing teams coming in there, game planning for the second units at times because we have one of the best scoring benches in the league. even though we're on a 20-game losing streak, we still have guys like Alec Burks, Jaden Ivey, Isaiah Livers, James Wiseman at times, Marvin Bagley majority of the time. We still have these guys that can shoot, like they can score. So that really it shows you how good this team is, and in the sense that I know we lost, we suck right now, but the way Ivy played tonight shows you that like he can easily start, he can easily come off the bench. There's not one specific area where you're going like, yeah,
Right.
I don't want to put Ivy out there. Like there's everything about him, especially tonight, that showed you like he's still the same player he was last year and might be even better so this year just because he has all of that knowledge and has learned more and more as time has gone on. And tonight was evident in that.
Something to note about tonight's matchup is the Pistons in the first quarter only had 2 turnovers and then finished with probably a season low of 14 turnovers through 4 quarters. It was great to see the Pistons protect the ball in their terms. You know, a lot of times we're hopping on recaps here and the Pistons are flirting with 22, 23 turnovers in a game. So to see 14 is kind of a positive in this 20-game losing streak, because the Pistons are slowly starting to find this collective play of protecting the ball. Their defense is, it's hard to make the argument that their defense is getting better because they gave up 130 points, but their defense is seeming to be more of a cohesive unit. And then as a collective offensively, the passing is getting a little bit smoother and they're protecting the ball a little bit more. It was great to see the Pistons only have 2 turnovers in the first quarter. They kind of started out the game with protecting the ball and they outscored the Pacers by 4 points, I believe. And they won the first quarter. So that's definitely a positive in this 20-game losing streak.
No, yeah, I agree. When you look back at some of these games, you're seeing 20 turnovers, you're seeing 18 turnovers, and it's like it fluctuates between 18 to like 25. And that's not a good number. But the last couple nights out there, and probably the last 3 or 4 games now, we've been seeing consistently 14 turnovers or so, and that's it. Which shows you that, like this team, they're growing. They really are. They're growing together, and it's obvious. And I think due in part because Bojan being back. He's a veteran. He knows how to play the game. And usually before Bojan was even out there is when we saw the higher numbers and turnovers. We need vet players out there at all given moments. Every team in the NBA does. There's not one young team that can go out there and win with the best of them. There's not old teams that can go out there and win with the best of them. It needs to be a collection of old to young players in as a team in order to have success. You look at the Heatles as an example. They had LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. At that time, all 3 of them young. They're still young, but they needed the older vets to come in there and really contribute to help them win. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that they're bad because those are 3 first ballot Hall of Famers right there. But still, the point is, every young team needs an old player. Every old team needs a young player. That's the bottom line. So when you have as many turnovers as we were averaging, and now we're to a point where we're only giving up 14 turnovers, 16 turnovers, and that's it. It shows you what Bojan Bogdanovic and the rest of these vets and then the coaching staff, what they're instilling in these guys to like, hey, we can't keep turning the ball over. That's why it's putting us in a hole. And that's why we're losing these games. And it really shows you that this team is growing together. And it's evident tonight.
When looking at the box scores, something that pops out to you, and I know that most Pistons fans, when watching the game, really felt the presence of Alec Burks getting his 14 points, 4 of 6 from the field, 2 of 3 from the 3-point line. Alec Burks had a quiet last month. He just was kind of struggling. He would give us 12, 9 points here and there, but we know that's not his regular thing. We like to see him in the 14 to 17 point mark. And that's really all we need from him is no turnovers and shots in the basket. That's what we need from him. We need him to give the bench an offensive burst. And much like talking about like when Cade is on and facilitating and scoring, the Pistons are at an elite level. But also when Alec Burks is giving that burst of offense off the bench, the Pistons have a dynamic to their team that when you don't have that they look even worse. And if you take away Alec Burks from this game, this game looks a lot different. I was really happy with his play, and to have him, a lot of guys with comeback games tonight.
Yeah, Alec Burks has always continued to play a big role in whether we lose or win games.
Oh yeah.
And that stemmed from last year to this year. There were moments and times, like last year especially, when we needed somebody to pretty much score and like just score.
Yeah.
And he was always that guy. And then this year, I mean, he's kind of taken a step back because now Cade is back. We're seeing Ivy off the bench in a second unit with him. We have Asar Thompson now, a young rookie that likes to score when he can, but otherwise is mainly defense. Bojan Bogdanovic is back because there were stretches last year where we didn't have Bojan on the lineup just because of injury alone.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the guys that were dealing with injuries last year are now back and healthy. And we're seeing Alec Burks kind of be like, yep, I'm accepting my step back in sense of a role within the team. But in doing so, we've seen him not really hit the 17 to 20 mark like he had been last year. But that's okay because we know what Alec Burks can give us on any given night. And if there's a opportunity for him to do so when Cade goes down with an injury or any of our other guys go down with another injury, like it shows you, and you know for a fact, if I absolutely need points and it's absolutely necessary in order to win or keep this game close, Alec Burks, you're getting thrown in right now because I know you can go out there and do that. So I'm very pleased with his point total tonight. And I will say this, it shows you how good of an offensive playmaker and shooter he is in the fact that he only played 13 minutes tonight and outscored his points to minutes. He had 14 points in 13 minutes, only missed 2 shots, missed 1 3, 100% at the line. Like, also had 1 steal, just throwing that out there. But like, it shows you how good of an offensive player he is in the fact that he only needs 13 minutes to produce 14 points.
Yeah, that's great. Making the most out of the time, especially guys off the bench. That's just great to see. One last thing I want to mention before we wrap up tonight's recap of the Detroit Pistons versus the Indiana Pacers is that the Pistons shot 56% from the field tonight through 4 quarters. That was the highest percentage shooting in a loss since January 23rd against, I believe, the Dallas Mavericks of 2022. So it's almost a full year that they've shot that high of a percentage and still ended up with a loss. The Pistons did a lot tonight that when you're doing the math, you think they should have won this game. I think it speaks to how tough the Indiana Pacers are. And when normal, like mid Pistons fans are going to look at the final score of tonight's game, they're going to say, oh, the 20th loss. But when you dig in deep in these box scores, there's a lot of positives, and we're starting to see the Pistons. They dug themselves a very deep hole these last couple months. They're slowly starting to dig themselves out. So I hope Pistons fans realize that there are positives with this team, and the high percentage shooting from tonight's game is one of them.
Yeah, right now they're digging tunnels, and at some point we're going to reach the surface level.
Yeah,
and
I like
that. There's just, I'm sorry, that was good.
I liked
but
it.
no, but no, yeah. So the way they're playing right now is showing us that through adversity or just through tough times in general, we will see positives. And I don't care if it takes 5 weeks from now in order to get another win. The end result is going to be good. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
The Red Wings went through a little rough stretch from not making the playoffs. And then now look at them. They're looking pretty darn good. The Lions obviously haven't been great in forever, not since the 50s. And here they are looking at like a serious contender. I know they lost to the Bears. That was brutal. I hate that. But I think they're fine. And then the Tigers too, like they've been struggling, but they were one of the better performing second half teams in the MLB this past year. Like it's going to take a minute before these young guys really grow together as a unit and work well together. And there will be a lot of negatives to talk about, but there's also going to be a lot of positives to talk about too. And we're slowly starting to see a lot more positives and negatives as recently. And I'm very happy and very excited to see where that leads us.
That will do it for tonight's recap of the Detroit Pistons versus the Indiana Pacers. Tonight's final score was 131 to 123 in the Pacers' favor. A few things I want to mention to you guys before you leave. First off, make sure to add Revved Up 906 merch to your Christmas list. Our official merch sponsor is Grind Clothing Co. You can follow them on Instagram to see all the different designs they have to offer. The link to their merch and our merch collab is in our YouTube bio and in the video description below. So make sure to click that link, take a few screenshots of the merch you like, and add it to your Christmas list. You got to make sure to rep your favorite Detroit Pistons podcast, Revved Up 906. Also, March 15th through the 18th, the Revved Up Boys are going to be in Detroit, Michigan for 2 back-to-back games against the Miami Heat in Little Caesars Arena. So if you want to come support your boys, Revved Up 906. Come say hi. That would be great. But also, I know the Pistons are losing a lot, but keep supporting, keep buying tickets, keep buying the Pistons hats, the Pistons jerseys. Make sure to still show up in Little Caesars Arena. And no matter what, show that deep blue and red love to the Pistons. That will do it for tonight's recap. We will see you guys in the next recap. Peace.